Hey, it's Mark from Power BI at Work. Thank you for joining another video. In this video, the topic is giving our report users control over the results that they're presenting in front of stakeholders. And so what I'm going to do is do just a little DAX magic, connecting it with a disconnected table. And we're going to see how we use this trick to bring a lot of value to the customers that we present this to. This originated many years ago. I say many, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when we wanted to bring a calculator out to our customers that would show them the effects of improved profit, whether they improved or they were more efficient with the products that we were selling them, versus if they were able to go back to the payer in this industry and be able to collect more revenue per job. And it was difficult to do that on a spreadsheet. You can imagine in a B2B relationship, we didn't have a lot of time to pencil this out in front of them on paper. But when we were able to put this in Power BI and effectively give the report user control over the results, it really started to make that data story a lot more effective in front of our customers. And so the basics of this is what we do is we show them where they are currently in terms of their sales and the cost, or the cost of the products that they're purchasing from us, their profit based on that equation, and what their current profit margin is. And the contrast that we want to show them is, if you were able to become more efficient with the items that you purchase from us, so you weren't depending as much on our products, and that's how you were carving out additional margin, what would that result be? Versus if you got better at going back to your payers and you were able to add, say, 5% or 10% more to your top line revenue. But how would that shake out in terms of added profit? And so what we basically do is say, if you were able to save 10%, you were 10% more efficient on the products that you purchase from us. And here's where the magic happens, right? It automatically calculates that added margin dollars, and it shows them how their margin percentage is going up from 33 to almost 40%. And they get excited about this because they can see the instant results, or the instant potential in this calculation. But let's do the other way. Let's, instead of being 10% more efficient on products, and maybe it's both, but for sake of this demo, what we do is we zero this out to compare to what would happen if we took that 10% and we were able to add 10% to the top line, and we focused on revenue. Well, you can see that one yields more than the other. These percentages, although they're the same, they have a different effect, obviously, because these numbers are different. We've got a lot more sales going on up there. So 10% obviously adds $8,000. One thing that's interesting is that you'll note that the change in margin percentage is actually lower under the increased sales. If we go back to the cost, you'll see that when we improve cost by 10%, the margin improvement is actually higher. So some might be fooled by wanting a higher margin percentage, but our focus is entirely on margin dollars. And what would you do if you had the opportunity? In our industry that we work with, we are confidently comparing this to 10% increase in sales, just because we know that in our industry, it is very common to leave money on the table. So anyway, we love this demo. It's served us very, very well in contrast to Excel spreadsheets, for sure. So I want to switch gears and show us a little bit about how this happens. And it's very easy. I'm probably going to spend more time on the demo part of it than explaining DAX, but let's check this out. So the first thing that I did is I created a disconnect table. And if we go back to my model here, if I move this over, you'll see that I have these floating tables out here that have no relationship to anything in my model. I've got one table that drives changes in sales, and then I've got another one that's identical that drives the efficiency or the cost savings on the cost side. You can go in Power Query and you can just create a table by typing in these numbers, or you can paste them in from Excel. It's not a very big table. One thing that I've been trying to do lately is stick more towards DAX, uh, do some DAX that I'm less familiar with. So I'll show you one of these tables and I'll expand, or I'll zoom in on this. I'm using the data table function and I'm giving it a column name for the label, which is right there, and then a name for the value, which is going to drive my percentage, and then formatting those columns right there. But when I add a table and I use code like this, it is going to generate that table. And so I've got one for cost and one for sales. Be careful that when you start that, you don't go and add a measure. You have to come up, you've got to go up into the ribbon and you've got to go into modeling and click new table there. And then it opens up what looks like a measure bar right there, but it's the output of that is going to evaluate out to a table. Now that's the first step, and that seems easy enough. The second step is integrating these percentages into our margin or our measure results. And for this, I'm taking the current sales and I'm multiplying it by this, and I'm using this as a result. So this measure right here, which is called revised sales, is driving both the current sales multiplied by this increased sales. Here's what that measure looks like, and you can imagine it's very similar for the cost side as well, but I'm using variables just to keep this neat and tidy and have an additional step. I am creating a first variable, and here's where the magic happens. I use the DAX function selected value to look at that floating table out there, that percentage sales table, and I'm looking over that value column, the 0.01, the 0.02, etc. And I'm looking for the selected value, okay? So this back in the day used to look like if has one value. I won't complete this, but we used to use this if then condition and have to combine if and has one value. Well, they combined it at some point, which was, it saves some time, but it's a beautiful function because what it's doing is it's going over that table of those values and it's looking for a filter on that column. It's actually looking for a unique or a distinct value in that column. In order to get a distinct value, in our case, for that table, we have to filter it down. Let's go back to that table and look at how selected value works. So if I go to percentage sales and I look at this column, if this table is not related to any other table in my model, it's just unfiltered. Okay, so the model's not filtering it. Original filter context is not filtering it. It's all dependent on that slicer that's on the face of my report. So I've got multiple values here. So if I left it unfiltered, there's no selected value. I've got 10 values here or 11 values showing here. But when I go to my slicer and I choose one of these, what I'm doing is I'm filtering this table down to just one row. Let's say that I had a duplicate in here. Let's say that I had two 4s. Okay, I had 4% and 0.04 here. And then I had another row that was exactly the same. Even though I go to the face of my report and I go here and select 4, it would actually still recognize a selected value because I've selected a single distinct value in that table. It's not until it sees that there are multiple values to choose from in that table, that it's going to give me the alternate of that result. Let's go back to that measure. The alternate of that result, if there is no selected value, is going to evaluate to blank. And so the next step in my math here is take the original sales, or what I did some time intelligence, this month's sales times 1 plus whatever the selected value was up here from that table. So obviously, if it's not filtered or it's selecting 0, then we're going to get we're going to just get this month's sales. So the final step is to return the result, this final step right here of this measure, and that's really it. I mean, that's what gives our report users the ability to make these changes on the fly. I love the trick. Like, I love DAX, and I love how easy that DAX is and how much power it gives to our report users. But the real win here is on the storytelling side, when you're in front of a customer and you're not bringing them a spreadsheet, but you're giving them an interactive calculator here, and you can tell your story and you can show results at the same time. It really does make quite a difference. So it is impactful for them to see the potential of that revenue growth there. So that's it. Not a very long video, but wanted to share that. Sometimes it's the basic things that people are just unaware of that can bring a lot of impact to their reports. All right. Well, thanks for joining. I really appreciate the likes and the subscribes. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please leave a comment if you have any comments about this or other videos. And until next time, thanks for watching. See ya.